Autumn, we've got a quorum. We can start whenever you are ready.
Okay, sounds good. We'll go ahead and call the meeting to order for October 12th for the TCC. Welcome everyone. Do we have any public comment?
Yes, we do. These are all submitted online regarding the P7 draft submittal list. So we have 10 comments. 9 of those are about the Fanning Bridge Road project that we're submitting. They all are supportive. However, 3 of them express interest in a widening project versus an intersection improvement project. And 3 explicitly supported bike ped improvements, sidewalks, and bike lanes. And there was 1 comment opposing any bicycle or pedestrian improvements, wanting to discourage bike ped traffic on that road for safety reasons. And then we had 1 comment about the Emma Road sidewalk project, and that was from the Emma Neighborhood Council, and they expressed concern saying that the project doesn't reflect priorities identified by the community, specifically sidewalks on North Louisiana Avenue.
Yeah, and just to note, that's something where the community representative did reach out to us. I'm just back from vacation, so I just saw it, but they've requested that we set up a meeting with some of our other representatives with the intersecting jurisdictions, Buncombe County and City of Asheville, to discuss the potential sidewalk project.
I beg your pardon, Logan. That project's for Emma Road, though, right? And you mentioned North Louisiana?
Yeah, they mentioned that their priority is sidewalks on North Louisiana Avenue and that they've expressed it in the past and that hasn't been completed yet. So they don't want us prioritizing Emma Road over that.
Thank you.
All right, is there any other public comment? Anyone there, Tristan?
Not that I'm aware of. If anyone online would like to provide public comment, please feel free to just make a request in the chat. And as a reminder, we'll have another public comment period at the end of this meeting. So that's another time when public comment can be made as well.
Okay. So we'll move on to approval of the agenda and the consent agenda, unless there's any concerns from anyone. And does anyone want to make that as a motion?
I'll make that motion. I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and second. Hannah, do you want to take us through roll call?
Yes. Asheville, Lucy Crown.
Aye.
Art, Jessica Morris.
Aye.
Buncombe County, William High.
Approved.
Buncombe Transit, Dylan Casper.
Approved.
TPD, Daniel Sellers.
Approved.
Watcher, Eric Rufa.
Aye.
Haywood County, Jody Ferguson.
Aye.
Henderson County, Autumn Radcliffe.
Aye.
Apple Country Transit, Jana Bianculli.
Aye.
Mills River, Mike Malachek.
Approved.
RPO, Vicki Eastland.
Aye.
Division 13, Hannah Cook.
Aye.
And Division 14, Steve Williams.
Aye.
Did I miss anyone? Yeah, I have.
All right, so we'll move into our first business item, which is amendments to the 2024-2033 TIP.
Okay, so thank you. Y'all might notice that the packet is very huge this month. We're switching to a new format of presenting TIP amendments that is allowed by our new interactive TIP tool. So we're able to print out pretty detailed reports for each project. So hopefully that's helpful for people who have questions or would like to know more information about the projects being amended. Also, there are many tip amendments this month because we haven't been able to amend the new tip throughout its process of being adopted, but now that it's adopted, we can make amendments. So a lot of these projects have been waiting to get amended over the past couple months. But there's a lot. I won't go through each one, but there's been a few delays in projects of note. That would be the North Rad Greenway, Woodfin Greenway, and Riverwalk Greenway. Those have all been delayed a year in construction. There's also the reflection of the addition of nationally significant federal lands and tribal projects funds that were granted to the Acosta Trail earlier this year. There's the addition of several highway safety projects, as well as 3 rail safety projects, which target crossings in Asheville, Black Mountain, and Canton. There are 2 deletions from the tip, which is U5973 intersection improvements on Weaverville Highway and BL0079, which was the Texas Road Pedestrian Bridge project in Montreat. And this set of amendments also reflects the cost increases to I-2513 AC, which is the widening north of I-40 in Asheville up to Haywood Road.
And to note, as Logan noted, the packet is fairly large, but a lot of that is kind of exporting the reports from our new Eco Interactive tip tool. So the report has kind of a project by project sheet that kind of shows what the updated information is going to be reflected in the TIP. So you can go through, look at the projects, look at the funding, the schedule, and a small map. If you haven't checked out this tool on our website, you know, it's better than social media, folks. It is a really great tool. It's very intuitive. It's very easy. I'm biased, but I think it's easy to find your project information, find project schedules and funding. So please utilize this tool. Also, one project that Logan mentioned, the Texas Road Pedestrian Bridge, I just want to make a quick note of that. That's a project that the NPO provided funding for earlier this year. It was applied for through our 2022 locally administered projects call for projects. We had a series of meetings with DOT Division 13 and the town of Montreat to try to get a better grasp on the project and get better cost estimates. I want to give a big shout out to Division 13, and we have Garrett in the room. Garrett and Hannah Cook, they generously took on project management for this short-lived project. That's not something that Division 13 has always done in the past, and they worked very closely with the town to develop those updated cost estimates and work with them to see if utilizing federal funds for this project was really the right call, and the town ultimately decided that it was not. But even though it's not a great outcome, I do want to give a shout out to Division 13 for helping the town and us work through some of those obstacles.
Was there
Any
any,
questions?
oh, sorry.
Sorry, go ahead, Alva.
No, I was just gonna ask if there were some other like specific projects we need to note or talk about or.
Logan?
I don't think so. I think in that blurb at the top, I highlighted the main ones that would be worth a conversation, in my opinion, at least. A lot of it was, you know, miscellaneous highway safety project breaks in additions to the tip.
Right. I guess I will note a couple of projects Logan noted that are also locally administered projects. One of them is shown here. That's the part of the Woodfin Greenway project, and also the Black Mountain Riverwalk bike ped improvements. Those were discussed at the prioritization subcommittee. The NPO has a standing policy of once a locally administered project has 2 delays in their schedule, then the NPO will reconsider whether or not that project will remain funded. So we brought that up with the prioritization subcommittee, and the recommendation was, let's approve the TIP amendments, let's keep these projects moving. The projects are making progress. NPO staff is on a bi-weekly call with Buncombe County and the town of Woodfin on the Woodfin Greenway project. It's a huge project. There's some significant obstacles to overcome and figure out. So at this point, we did have that discussion in line with the policy, and the recommendation was to continue to move forward.
Okay, does anyone have any questions about any of the projects? Okay, are you needing a motion from us to approve this and forward it on to the board?
Yes.
Okay, does anyone want to make that as a motion?
This is William. I'll make a motion to approve the list.
Okay, is there a second?
This is Jessica. I'll second.
Thank you. Okay, take us through roll call, Hannah.
Asheville, Lucy Crown.
Aye.
Art, Jessica Morris.
Aye.
Buncombe County, William High.
Approved.
Buncombe Transit, Dylan Casper.
Approved.
TPD, Daniel Sellers.
Aye.
Butcher, Eric Rufa.
Aye.
Haywood County, Jody Ferguson.
Aye.
Henderson County, Autumn Radcliffe.
Aye.
Apple Country Transit, Jana Van Cooley.
Aye.
Mills River, Mike Malachek.
Approved.
RPO, Vicky Eastland. Aye. DOT Division 13, Hannah Cook.
Aye.
And Division 14, Steve Williams.
Approved.
The ayes have it.
All right, we'll move on to our next business item, which is the P 7.0 project submittals.
All right, I guess a quick fun fact before we get into that. Logan noted the packet is very huge. I have a little post-it note from when I started to keep our agendas more consolidated. The record we have for the longest agenda packet is 271 pages. So this ain't nothing. To get into it, P 7.0 project submittals. This is the last time we will be bringing this list through the TCC and the board. We brought this through as a draft list in August, and the final submittals are due in October. So I will share a quick few slides just to run through a few things. So in general, P7 prioritization, also known as SPOT, where does that live in the overall transportation planning process? It's basically the bridge between our long-range plans, the CTP and MTP, and what kind of goes from those long-range plans and ultimately gets funded. So this is a very important process at the MPO. It's something we haven't done in 4 years. Normally, we have cycles every 2 years, but with the funding shortfalls more recently, it's been a little while. But in general, prioritization, we're trying to figure out what are the transportation projects that should be funded next. What are the priorities for our region, and utilizing the quantitative metrics from the prioritization process that we want to have considered in this process. Just a reminder on the process, this is governed by the Strategic Transportation Investments Act that was signed in 2012 by Governor McCrory. It determines how transportation funding in North Carolina is allocated, in large part. There are other funding programs, but this is really where your larger significant projects are usually funded. To get a little bit into it, and the funding distribution, there's 3 different tiers. One is the statewide mobility. With statewide mobility for our region, that's our interstates and our strategic highway corridors that are eligible for funding. So that includes US 2374 through Haywood County. Those projects are, they compete across the entire state. So our projects on I-26 and I-40, they're competing with projects in Charlotte, Raleigh, Wilmington, Rocky Mount, everywhere across the state. 40% of the funding in this process goes to that funding tier. It is the most significant funding tier in this process. And to note, that is the funding tier where local input points aren't applied. Everything that's funded through this funding tier is fully determined by the quantitative score from NCDOT. So to note, this is where looking at your carryover project list is especially important. There are projects on I-40, I-26, Future 26 that are on the carryover list. So please make sure to note those. Also, the Asheville Regional Airport is eligible for statewide mobility funds. Regional impact, that's our next tier. In general, US and NC routes are eligible for funding in this tier. 30% of the overall funds in the prioritization process go to regional impact. From there, the funds are distributed to each region based on population. So our region has the second smallest population of all the regions, and so we get a relatively small share of these funds. And so that's something to keep in mind. And also, anything that isn't funded in statewide mobility tier can compete in the regional impact tier if the MPO decides to cascade that project. And then there's division needs. Division needs is another 30% of the overall funding. Funding is distributed to the 14 different NCDOT divisions equally. Division 13 gets a little more than 7% of the funding. Division 14 gets a little more than 7% of the funding. And all the projects in that tier compete across the division. So our projects in Madison and Buncombe, they're competing with projects in Burke, Rutherford, McDowell, Yancey, and Mitchell. And the projects that are eligible for that are basically everything else. So your secondary roads, your bike ped projects, and transit projects. This is where I'll make a joke for the 5,000th time. And our ferry projects could compete if we had any.
Never stop.
Never stop. So that's the kind of overall look at how the process works. In terms of things that we need to do, these are the general steps that we go through. The very first step that we are in is submitting projects. The MPO gets 26 projects per mode to submit. And so those are the projects that we are going to enter and have compete in this process. From there, the state applies quantitative scoring. So the state looks at congestion, safety, economic development, accessibility, connectivity, and other factors to give each project a score. Again, the statewide mobility projects are programmed based solely on that score. For regional impact projects, we have to provide local input points. So that's where we can determine what projects are the MPO's priorities that we really want to get funded. So we'll go through that. I believe that's scheduled for the summer to go through and assign local input points. And then regional impact projects are programmed, and then local input points are considered for division needs projects. And from there, we get a new draft tip instead. That's released, we put that out for comment, and the final TIF is adopted. As someone incredulously commented, in 2025, yes, it's a process. And to note, something that's not in this chart is we normally have a public survey that is provided around the time that quantitative scoring and statewide mobility projects are programmed. In the past, we have had more than 5,000 responses to our survey. That's more than NCDOT got across the whole state. Vicky and I exchanged dozens of high fives when we did this last round. Dozens, I say.
Every time we say.
Just to get that on your radar, we are planning on doing that again, and one of the things that is most helpful is having our local governments push that out. We can tell when newsletters and things like that are released, we get these surges of responses from different zip codes that get those newsletters. Again, in general, this is something, I've given a couple of public presentations on this, but we did have a public comment period. It's still open through the 19th, and we have received 10 comments, as Logan stated earlier. There is a list of projects available, as well as a form for folks to fill out. Again, one of the things that we've heard from a number of folks is the importance of Fanning Bridge Road, which is something that, that's a road that's largely within the town of Fletcher. In the past, we've submitted that as a modernization. It has not scored very well as a modernization, so we changed the middle this round to be an intersection improvement, or a series of intersection improvements, and an additional project as a sidewalk project. And again, anything that's successful in this process will go into the Transportation Improvement Program, or the TIP. And again, play with our new TIP tool. It's fantastic. This says Wednesday. Oh, sorry. So the way we've advertised it is October 18th is when we'll be summarizing the comments received via form, but we've encouraged people to attend for public comment on the 19th as well, as a board meeting. A few changes from when you last saw this list. We went through this with the prioritization subcommittee. One of them is an addition that was suggested by the NCDOT Rail Division for a grade separated crossing at Blue Ridge Road. That is in the town of Black Mountain. The town of Black Mountain somehow coordinated within 5 minutes of this being brought up and agreed that it's a good idea. Very, very quick work. One of the changes, or a modification to one of the projects on the draft list is a project we've submitted for a number of rounds. That's the project on US 70 and US 74A. So that's a project we've submitted as an access management project in the past. We did a corridor study a few years ago looking at this project, and generally what was found is it's really two different projects. One would be looking at intersection improvements and a road diet along the section of US 70, and the section of South Tunnel Road would be more appropriate as an access management project. We asked Stephen Sparks with Division 13 to provide some scoring options, and what he recommended was that that section of US 70 would be the most advantageous submittal as a roadway upgrade. So one of the changes is we've shortened the project to just go from the Catcher Tunnel to South Tunnel Road and submit that again as a roadway upgrade, and the South Tunnel leg would fall off for this round of prioritization. A recommended addition, this is actually another public comment that came through the Buncombe County Commissioners. There was a comment about concerns with the Ramsey Road and New Leicester Highway intersection. That's an intersection that was recently changed from a 2-lane on New Leicester Highway to a 4-lane. It's an unsignalized intersection, and so there's a lot of people making lefts off of Ramsey Road across 2 lanes of traffic and then merging on to 2 lanes of southbound traffic. When we started pulling in other crash data, we also found that Goges Branch Road has a pretty similar crash history in the last 5 years, and it's also an unsignalized intersection. And Newfound Road further south has significantly more crashes at that intersection. So what we'd be recommending would be adding a project to address those intersections. Goges Branch, my apologies. Potato sauce. Yeah, I didn't say Gouget, so give me some points there.
This is a cow.
We'll
From here, yeah.
We'll investigate and get back to the group. So if we're adding a new project, there has to be a removal. And so one of the projects that's not really being removed but would be modified would be Merriman Avenue. On your initial draft list, Merriman Ave, we had 2 separate projects on Merriman Avenue. One was from W.T. Weaver North to Beaver Dam Road to address intersections as well as complete streets needs through the corridor. And the second project was implementing a road diet south of W.T. Weaver to I-240. Again, shout out to Mr. Sparks for testing scores. What he found was submitting it all as one project scored the highest as a roadway upgrade. And again, combining those 2 projects into one, that frees up the space for the New Leicester Highway intersection improvements. The other recommended change to the submittal list is a project from our MTP. That is the extension of Peachtree Road, which chances are, if you go to a pediatrician in Asheville, you are probably familiar with Peachtree Road. But besides that, it is a little road that basically does a loop from Hendersonville Road to Hendersonville Road. This was identified as an NTP because this is a stretch of Sweeten Creek and Hendersonville Road where there's more than 2 miles where there is no connection between the 2 roads. These are both roadway segments that have seen a large increase in congestion. And having that lack of connectivity through there between currently Rock Hill Road and Gerber Road, it can tend to be an issue. If there's a crash along that section of Hendersonville Road, it can be something that, there's no what we call relief valve. As part of the MTP process, someone from Division 13 noted, if we were to provide a connection, Peachtree Road might be the most feasible. They didn't say it would definitely be feasible. But I think from our point of view, this is kind of a smaller project than some of the other ones being requested. And it would give us another project in the division needs tier. Because to note something that's in your packet, our regional impact here has negative $74 million, meaning there's no funding available or expected to be available this round in the regional impact tier, and there's going to be money from the next round that's going to come out of those future years. So for us, we think shifting a project from regional impact to division needs can be advantageous and give us another option. And especially looking at the Buncombe County list, we have a lot of regional impact projects. So we went through with the prioritization subcommittee on what projects to remove. I'll sorry for being long-winded, but we initially thought about the access management project from Airport Road to Long Shoals Road on US 25 Hendersonville Road. We submitted a couple of access management projects on Hendersonville Road in the past, and so you had 2 on your draft list. However, when we started pulling in additional data, this is from the EPA EJ screen, but it's also reflected in some of the work we've been doing on updating our environmental justice communities. That southern section of Hendersonville Road really lights up for local income or low income population as well as limited English proficiency. And so even though that southern section scored slightly worse than the northern section in the last round of prioritization, we noted that there's additional equity considerations in that southern section. The cost is slightly less. And in all honesty, that's not a huge shift in scores, 45 versus 42. So the prioritization recommended the removal of the access management project between Rock Hill Road and Long Shoals Road in order to add the Peachtree Road extension. So your project list reflects that removal. And one last thing, Eric noted this, Eric Rufa from the town of Fletcher noted this earlier today. We initially had a Fanning Bridge Road project as a multi-use path for one of our bike ped submittals. That has been changed to a sidewalk project at the request of the town. So that is another change from your initial draft list.
Also, not on this list, but Landscott RPO will be sending a memo to Spot Office and to Tristan to request the transfer of 2 of our highway projects to the NGO, and those 2 projects would specifically be 1923 and Chandler from the intersection of NC 151, which is the Pisgah Highway, out to Wiggins Road, right near the interchange number 37 at near the Haywood Buckle line. We're looking at potentially an access management project there, and also from old 1923 with the Kubota dealership is, if anybody's familiar with that. From that intersection of 1923, old 1923 to Young's Cove Road would be a modernization project to include an intersection improvement at Canner School Road.
And one last thing to note is one of the carryover projects that's on New Leicester Highway from Patton Avenue to Newfound Road. That's a project that was submitted as access management in the past. One thing we found going through the updated carryover list was it was shown as multiple intersection improvement. I think we've gone back and forth a little bit with DOT on this, but I think there's a lot to be worked out with the concept of that project, but I've requested that be changed back to an access management project. I think all the plans that we have show that it's not just intersection improvements that are needed. There's a lot of safety concerns across that corridor that aren't at intersections. So that's something we've requested, at least the improvement type be reverted back to what was originally there. Yeah, I think, Jana, you have your hand raised?
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure that the TCC knows that Henderson County could change its bike ped submittals to include the Saluda Grade Trail and swap out one of the City of Hendersonville's greenway entries. They currently have like 4 entries just for that jurisdiction. And so that's kind of why it would be the city who potentially would give up an entry. TCC for our county will meet next Wednesday. So this group would have already, met, but the MPO would know for sure before they meet.
Thanks, Janet. That's good to know. And not to get too far ahead of myself, but Vicki and I talked right before this meeting. The RPO has some spare bike ped submittal spots that we might have to do some trading for. I might deliver a fresh hot coffee to Vicki's desk right after this. But if we can get additional spots, that might make that discussion easier, and hopefully we can determine that relatively soon.
Let's just note that the submittals may be moved back.
Oh, sorry, the submittals were moved back a month. So initially the schedule that came out was September, that was moved to October.
All right, are there any other questions or comments from anyone? So I guess we are looking for a motion to recommend this on to the board with the changes as noted.
Yes.
This is Jessica. I will move that. Make that motion, whatever.
Thank you. Is there a second?
This is William. I will second.
All right, Hannah, take us through roll call.
Asheville, Lucy Crown.
Yes.
Art, Jessica Morris.
Aye.
Buncombe County, William High.
Approved.
Buncombe Transit, Dylan Casper.
Approved.
TPD, Daniel Sellers.
Approved.
Flat Rock, Pat Christie.
Approve.
Fletcher, Eric Rufa.
Aye.
Haywood County, Jody Ferguson.
Aye.
Henderson County, Autumn Radcliffe.
Aye.
Apple Country Transit, Jana Bianculli.
Aye.
Mills River, Mike Malachek.
Approved.
RPO, Vicki Eastland. Aye. DOT Division 13, Hannah Cook.
Aye.
And Division 14, Steve Williams.
Aye.
The ayes have it.
All right, our last business item is Safe Streets for All Steering Committee roster.
So as most all of you know, we were awarded a safety action plan grant through the IIJA Safe Streets for All call for projects in FY22. We are currently in the procurement stage. We have an RFLOI out and it is due on November 10th. And we hope to be under contract with a consultant by the end of the year. A big part of Safe Streets for All is community engagement. So we have composed a list of potential steering committee members for our Safe Streets for All Action Plan grant. We are pre-selecting the steering committee members and then forwarding this on to the consultant once we're under contract. And we will, me, Tristan, and Vicki will be on the committee as well as the people listed. Should I go over the people listed? Yes. So for Division 13, we have Hannah Cook, Division 14, Steve Williams, Asheville, Chris Cairns, Buncombe County, William High, Hendersonville, Brent Detweiler, Henderson County, Autumn Radcliffe, Waynesville, Elizabeth Teague, Haywood County, Jody Ferguson, Madison County, Forrest Gilliam, Brevard, Aaron Bland, Transylvania County, Darby Terrell, DOT Safety Unit, Brian Murphy, and Scott Collier. All of these people received an email last week from me asking them if they would like to be on the committee, and if they would not, to please let me know and potentially provide a replacement. Nobody has said no, I've had quite a few people say yes, but nobody has said no to me. If you are a no, please let me know after this meeting. That would be wonderful. But we're looking for a motion to recommend this steering committee to the board and have this be our action plan steering committee roster for our Safe Streets for All plan once we get underway, hopefully in January.
Yeah, and just to note, I think a lot of the responsibilities are going to be going through the consultant submittals to help select a consultant and help to steer the plan. Also, not to put anyone on the spot, but Suzette, is there someone from FHWA, including yourself, who would be willing to be part of that roster as well?
It may be Lorraine. She's in charge of the Safe Streets for All. So, you've talked to her previously, yeah, so reach out to her and see if that's something. I know she's like a lot of all the SS4As, so yeah, just reach out to her and see if she can't do it. Yeah. Okay.
Okay, does anyone have any comments or does someone want to make a motion?
This is Vicky, I'll make the motion.
Okay, is there a second?
I'll do it. It's Lucy.
Thank you. All right, last time we have to go through roll call.
Asheville, Lucy Crown.
Yes.
Art, Jessica Morris.
Aye.
Buncombe County, William High.
Approved.
Buncombe Transit, Dylan Casper.
Approved.
TPD, Daniel Sellers.
Approved.
Flat Rock, Pat Christie.
Aye.
Here, Eric Russo.
Aye.
Haywood County, Jody Ferguson.
Aye.
Henderson County, Autumn Radcliffe.
Aye.
Apple Country Transit, Jana Van Cooley.
Aye.
Milk River, Mike Malachek.
Approved.
RPO, Vicky Eastland.
Aye.
And Division 13, Hannah Cook.
Aye.
And Division 14, Steve Williams.
Aye.
The ayes have it.
All right, we have one informational item, memorandum of understanding update.
Right, so, this is, an item we've had on, our to-do list for a while, pending, the updates to the MPO's planning boundary. This is, one of the more important governing documents for the MPO. It outlines the role of MPO as well as membership, and, some of the mechanics of the, MPO board and TCC. So this is something that with the new planning boundaries, we will be updating. And so there have been some changes. The big one is that Transylvania County is currently in our MOU as a non-voting member of the MPO board. With the new planning boundaries, Transylvania County is no longer within the MPO planning area. So that is one significant change that we will be making to the MOU. But in general, we plan on making this a several-month process. So for this month, we'll just be introducing that we will be updating this document and make folks aware. But next month, we'll be developing a survey for MPO representatives to kind of go over some of the different aspects of the MOU. I know something that has come up are some of the voting mechanics. As of right now, the way we define quorum is with active members. It's a little bit different than some of the other quorum definitions. So what we define as an active member for the TCC and the board are members that have been attending meetings. Inactive members are when you have missed the previous two meetings, you no longer count towards quorum. So our quorum has fluctuated a lot. It's not quite calculus, but thank you, Hannah, for doing the math required on the number of active members, 50% plus one to get a quorum. I will say that this has been especially helpful in the past. When I started at the MPO, we were averaging in the single digits for the TCC and board meetings. I think our average got as low as 5 or 6 members per meeting. We're now averaging close between 15 and 20 generally. So we're getting the majority of our membership to a lot of our meetings over the last few years. But that's something that's outlined in this document. The voting powers, so the distribution of votes, that's something that has come up before. As of right now, every member government gets a seat on the board, and our 3 largest jurisdictions get 2 votes. So that's the city of Asheville, Buncombe County, and Henderson County. Veto votes, that's something within the MOU where if there is a surface street project where all of the directly impacted jurisdictions would like to essentially veto a project, they may call for a veto vote. That's not something that's come up in my tenure here, but it is something we've presented our board members who have wanted to do something like that. It just hasn't gone through. Weighted voting, that has come up a few times. That is that the jurisdiction is directly impacted by a project. They may call for a weighted vote, and then each of the directly impacted jurisdiction members, their vote counts as 3. So this came up during I-26 considerations, and this also came up during the Highland Lake Road vote a few years ago, and also going through NPO roles and responsibilities. All in all, I understand this is not the document that gets the most hits on the NPO website, but it is a very important document. So if there are things when you review the document that you would like the NPO, TCC, and board to consider changing, this is going to be really the big opportunity to get those changes done. And to note, every time we update the MOU, it's required to be approved by every jurisdiction in the MPO. So it's not just an MPO board vote. Every single member government in the MPO is required to sign off on this document. So I put a question mark in terms of the schedule for local government council consideration. I think the last time it took 6 months or 9 months to get through. I can't.
No, it wasn't that. It was, yeah, 4 to 6.
4 to 6 months. Just to note, this is going to be quite a process to go through. But we wanted to introduce it today and just make folks aware of the importance of this item, and make sure that you all are reviewing the document and starting to think about any changes where you would like to see. As of right now, we are planning on utilizing our prioritization subcommittee as kind of the sounding board for a lot of these considerations, but ultimately it will go through the TCC and board for initial approval before going to the local governments for their consideration. Are there any questions, comments?
All right, hearing none. You don't need any action, right? This was just kind of for us to start reading. It's preferably read through it and kind of have some thoughts before the survey comes out. Would that be a good game plan?
That's the game plan.
All right. All right, hearing nothing from anyone else, we will move on to our regular updates. NCDOT Division 13.
Yep, this is Hannah, so I'll cover the updates. Just give Hannah or Tristan, whoever's running things, just a second. All right, great. So I'll start with construction. That's up. I-4700, the I-26 widening in Buncombe County, so Airport Road to I-40. There's a lot of work picking up out there since the latest traffic switch that occurred, 6 weeks ago. Work continues on the new westbound lanes between the Parkway and Brevard Road. They're also continuing to work on the westbound section of the French Broad River Bridge, so that's nearing completion as well. They have started work on the second half of the Blue Ridge Parkway Bridge, so they mobilized, I think, last week, so you'll see some progress for the the Blue Ridge Parkway Bridge again. Resuming, and then they've been doing a lot of pavement removal and grading on the eastbound lanes from Glen Bridge Road to Airport Road. So a lot going on out there. So just be careful as you travel through that area. As always, I do want to touch, there's a ton of like but pedestrian safety projects on the list. A lot of projects in Asheville currently underway I wanted to touch on. There's a pedestrian project at the intersection of Patton and Haywood. It's just pedestrian signalization and crosswalks. The contractor has not mobilized yet, but they are anticipating to start by the end of this month, and the contractor is saying they're still on schedule to finish by December 1st. So look for some pedestrian improvements at the intersection of Patton and Haywood coming soon. And I wanted to also touch on the French Broad River, or not, what is the Amboy Road Bridge. They do still have the temporary signal in. There were some delays to the schedule. That temporary signal and lane closure was only supposed to be in for 30 days, but they're a few days over. They are expecting to have that removed this weekend though, and then that is still on track for December 8th completion overall as well. As far as project development, this is the same dates you guys have been seeing now in the recent months. This is the 2024 to 2033 STIP. And this isn't just our prioritization projects. This is also federally funded bridge projects, ARC projects, locally selected, so our DA projects. But you can see what funding program the project is through. And just kind of as a note, if we have right-of-way or construction within the first 5 years of the new STIP, so that's fiscal years 24 to 28, just kind of as a rule of thumb, those are the ones we're currently moving forward with preliminary engineering. Anything with right-of-way after fiscal year 28 remains on hold in Division 13, and those projects will recompete in P7. So those are your carryover projects. So just keep that in mind. If something's like missing from this list, it's likely a carryover project. And that's it for me, unless there's any questions.
Okay, I'm not hearing any. Thank you, Hannah. Anything else you want to go over? If not, we'll move on to Division 14.
Nope, I'm good.
I just a quick comment and question. I mean, I live right by the Amboy Road Bridge project, so I'll just note that there's definitely some backups, but all in all, I think the way that it's been designed and handled has been pretty impressive, considering you're taking down an important bridge to one lane and maintaining a safe place for pedestrians. Just a note there, I think, considering all the challenges, I think you guys have done a great job. I do have a question. The Craven Street Bridge improvements over the French Broad River, I think last time we discussed that project, was the division planning on starting an express design on that project, and has that started?
That's a good question. We met about it, what, 6 months ago, and I honestly don't remember where we left with that. So I'll have to check with the feasibility studies unit, and I'll get back with you, Tristan.
Okay, great. Just so folks are aware, that was a project initially funded through P3. So back in 2014, and it was funded as almost an entirely additional bridge that would have been part of the RADTIP project. I think the plans have kind of shifted to focus more on bike ped considerations and multimodal considerations. But that's a project where there's been a pretty significant shift in scope, in part because of cost increases, but also just the bridge considerations through there and who maintains DOT or the city. But getting a better idea on the cost and the scope of that project, I think is pretty important at this stage. So again, thanks to the division for taking on some of that work.
We ready for me?
I've had it, Steve.
All right. Construction side of things, just continue to be aware of the resurfacing that's going on I-40 in Haywood County. Right now, there's a lot of ramp work and shoulder work. They'll continue working for as long as the weather allows before knocking off for the season. And also be aware of the bridges as you go further west on I-40. 3 bridges under construction there. Walnut and Main in Waynesville is for the most part complete. And then the bridges that you've been seeing for a while, and progress continues on the pedestrian project there in Maggie Valley. Henderson County, starting with I-26, kind of the same that you've been hearing in the Henderson County side for a while. As the concrete pavement gets complete and traffic will shift. I think MPO's done a great job of sending out notices for closures and traffic shifts on that. I guess the only, Green River Bridge, both lanes remain open in each direction, but the shoulders are closed. Towards the end of this year is the schedule for shifting the traffic to the center of that bridge, and we'll let you know when that happens. Highland Lake Road, I think the completion date may have shifted last meeting, but if not, just be aware that that moved out 6 months in 2024, likely to move out more. Yeah, and that's it for the construction side, unless anybody has questions. All right, project development. Kind of just repeating what Hannah said, it's the same dates that you've been seeing for a while that came from the new STIP. Most schedules held except for bridges. A lot of bridges did get shifted out 6 months to 3 years, just trying to balance the budget out. Of course, there's no projects that have been added there. You've been seeing this list for a while. Any questions on the project development side of things? All right, thanks.
Thank you, Steve. All right, so we'll move on to updates from Transportation Planning Branch.
Okay. Just 2 different updates from me right now. One, there's been an effort behind the scenes to update the 2008 CTP for French Broad River and make it compliant with the newest MTP, make sure we have all the right projects, same projects on the list, and also to bring it up to current graphic mapping and geodatabase standards. And I thought I was going to be putting the final touches on some labels this Monday and discussing it, but it turns out it's going to be another month. But we want to have that amendment done fairly soon so that when we bring the consultant on board for the 2050 MTP development, we can give them a good baseline of information. But really, I'm just thinking about it as 08 plus the 2020 MTP. Plus, we looked at a few additional projects to kind of add. But right now, we're erring on the side of just including things. But I'll get you a detailed list of that coming up somewhat soon. Second string of updates, which we will have to find a way to share because it's kind of a large beast, is we are developing new traffic analysis zones for the model. This is kind of step 0 of developing models for the 2025 MTP update. And we have to develop them again from scratch new because they're going to be based on 2020 census data, 2020 census geographies, which are different than the 2010 geographies. So that update has been happening, and we think at the staff level we finished, and we want to get it out for review when we find a convenient way. But it's kind of hard to share as a table. but that's going to have all our base year data in it, and then we'll be bringing on a consultant to develop future year data. So expect to have a couple things to review from my branch coming up soon. All right, that's it for me.
Thanks, Daniel. Just a hopefully quick note on this. I think the updates to the travel demand model are definitely important for this group to consider. Remember, with a lot of the traffic forecasts that are developed as part of transportation projects, DOT relies heavily on the region's travel demand model. A lot of the standard is, DOT is basing the forecast on a lot of the modeling work that is done and fed by local governments and the MPO. So we've been working closely with Daniel and his division on making some updates that we think are a good step forward. Besides just changing the TAZs, Daniel and his folks have been very helpful in getting access to short-term rental data. As of right now, our model mainly reflects visitors through hotels and RV parks, but we know there's roughly 10,000 short-term rentals throughout the 5-county region. So we've gotten access, thanks to DOT, to that data to incorporate into the model so we can better reflect visitors and their likely impact on the transportation network. Also, in terms of visitors, Daniel's been working with streetlight data to get a better idea on the number of visitors to specific sites in our region. In the past, we've basically made a lot of phone calls at the early stages to get an idea on the number of visitors. One of the key issues with that are a lot of our national and state parks where there's multiple access points. So places like Pisgah National Forest, our model has several access points, and we get one number of visitors. There's 2 million visitors to Pisgah, and they go somewhere along this, massive stretch with multiple access points. The work that Daniel's been doing is trying to get better information on how many of those visitors are going to specific access points so that that can be reflected in the model. And to note, I think one of the areas where that is especially an issue is actually in Transylvania County, where every single time there's model output, Vicki says, how can 276 by Pisgah National Forest be that low? My bet is part of that is we need to improve the visitation numbers. So, Daniel, thanks to your work and your group on helping us to enhance and beef up the model, but again, something important for this group to be aware of.
Okay, Tristan, is there anybody on here for FHWA or FTA updates?
We've got a slew of federal representatives today.
I can't see the boss in the room, so.
Waving, that's me. I just have some updates. I put it on as part of your agenda packet, but I'll just highlight a few of those things. The first one, there is a NOFO out for bridges, for bridge investment. That one's for a large bridge project, so projects of over 100 million. Those are available for MPOs and locals to apply as well. And so they have a series of deadlines depending on when you want to be considered for that funding. So if there are any projects that you can think of for the future, you have those deadlines. The next one is FHWA announced funding for electric vehicle charging infrastructure. So it's $100 million, and that one, the application deadline is November 13th, and that's to repair and replace existing non-operational charging infrastructure. And according to the NOFO, you guys can read more details about it, but they pretty much said that they would fund whoever applied. So, yeah. But go ahead and work with, the locals can work with the state, or they can, do it without the state, but
They say they prefer projects that are not just applying for one, maybe you can apply for multiple. But if you have one, that's, fine too. But yeah, the information on that is in this update, all the links. The next one, we have the Thriving Communities Program. They're accepting applications for it, and if you want some support, then you have a deadline of November 15th to submit a letter of interest for support. And then there's some other deadlines that are approaching for other discretionary grants. And also, FHWA is seeking nominations, that's the next page, seeking nominations for the 2024 Environmental Excellence Award. And so for this one, we're accepting nominations for any project, process, or group or individuals that are involved in a project or process that has used federal funds to make an outstanding contribution to transportation and the environment. So any organization, agency, group, or individual in public, private, or nonprofit can submit a nomination. So there you go. Let's see, I've already talked about that. On the third page, you'll see some just resources for anything that you're interested in. There's also some upcoming webinars. There are a series of them for pedestrian safety and on urban arterials, so that would be a good one to look into. If any of these have already happened, I'm sure they'll have recordings available for you. And outside of these national, I do want to say Federal Highways, we enjoy participating and supporting the NPOs and the RPOs and, all the work that you do. So like yesterday, Brad Hibbs came and he spoke at the rural roadway safety event. So I enjoyed it. I was there. I loved how it went from federal all the way to regional discussions. And then also we're assisting the NPO as they work on their MTP, your RFLOIs, right? So just as a team, we provided comments that we just want to make sure that you guys get, your bang for your buck and get what you want in your MTP. So, and then also, what I would also enjoy participating in your MOU development as well. Please include me. So
I've never heard anyone enjoy.
It's fun, I love it.
Suzette, I did add you to our prioritization subcommittee mailing list, so.
Okay.
Please feel free to join. The prioritization subcommittee, there's 7 voting members, but it's generally just an open discussion for anyone who attends.
Oh, thank you for inviting me. Yeah, include me.
Yeah, and a big thanks to Suzette and FHWA. These newsletters, I think we've only had them the past 6 months or 4 months.
Something like that, 4 months, yeah.
Yeah, but I think they've been really helpful. There is so much coming out from Federal Highways. I would be lying to you if I said I get excited with every NOFO that comes out. Good Lord, there's a lot of NOFOs. We're trying to get them out to you without flooding your inboxes. But there's a lot of great resources also being made available. We've sent a lot of those links and guidebooks and research that's being done to the subcommittee mailing list. But also a lot of the resources, the webinars being made available are really, really fantastic. And if you can't attend them live, the recordings I think are almost always made available. So please check them out.
All right, thank you for that. Anyone have any questions? Okay, Tristan, you want to update us on all the subcommittee work groups and studies?
I won't go through each and every one of them, but I'll just say our subcommittees continue to be active. But one of the ones that has not been active is our Citizens Advisory Committee. That's a group that hasn't met in over a year. One thing Logan on our team is working on is revitalizing that committee roster. So Logan's been reaching out to a lot of community groups, and I think we'll be trying to get that committee back up and running, especially with the MTP being updated, and really give that group a charge of looking at and addressing public engagement, environmental justice, and transportation equity. If there's someone who you think would be good for that committee, please reach out to Logan and provide contact information. I know everyone is on numerous committees, but I think this is something where it's very important for folks to get involved, be a sounding board, and help kind of steer transportation planning towards a more equitable system. Besides that, as Suzette mentioned, yesterday was one of our events. Just as a reminder, the two main pieces of feedback I get are our meetings are too long and there's not enough information. So we've had a series of events this year to try to do a bit of a deeper dive. Vicki led Rural Road Safety yesterday. But to note, there's previous events on wildlife crossings, BMT reduction, and the prioritization process with recordings available on the website. So thanks to Vicki for organizing and the speakers who attended. In terms of legislative updates, I think there's two kind of big items. One of them is the one we've talked about a few times, that's Senate Bill 512. That's the bill that essentially changed the makeup of the Board of Transportation from a board that's largely appointed by the governor. That with Senate Bill 512, that has changed to a board appointed by the General Assembly based on NCDOT regions, not necessarily division appointees. The governor vetoed that bill after it was passed, and 2 days ago, the General Assembly voted to override that veto. I'm no legal expert, but people who know that stuff better than I do have noted that it's likely to see some legal challenges. The other thing to note is the budget was passed. There's a number of things in there. I think a number of our local governments did see some funding for water and sewer service. I think particularly Weaverville, I believe, received around $15 million. Brevard received a sizable portion as well.
County also.
Yeah, a number of water sewer systems around the state or around our region received funding, but also there was some funding for the Saluda grade that I believe made the final cut for purchasing the right of way on that rail. But we got a state budget. But those are the two main legislative updates for transportation.
All right, a lot of things happening. Are there any announcements, updates, or topics for the next meeting?
I think as Daniel noted, we've asked Daniel to go through some of the CTP updates that he's been working on, and some of the changes to the travel demand model. I've reached out to Kevin Moore with DOT to try to get our kind of annual update on the I-26 connector project and where that is at this point. We also plan on bringing back a revitalized Citizens Advisory Committee roster at the November meeting as well. And to note, November is our joint meeting with the board. So that'll be on November 16th. So if you haven't attended before, the joint meeting, the TCC meets, goes through their business items and votes. The board joins, everyone gets updates, and then the TCC adjourns and the board goes through business items. And that'll be our last planned meeting for the year. And then we will meet again in January.
All right, last call for public comment. Okay, hearing none, we are adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you, folks.